Hello and welcome to Delicious Simplicity. I'm Anna Turkakis. On the menu today we have crab cakes and a green salad, tomato meat sauce over bow ties pasta, and chocolate covered strawberries. And so the first thing we're going to start with is the tomato sauce. In here I already have cooking 4 tablespoons of olive oil, a small chopped up onion, and 1 garlic clove. So I'm cooking that for a few minutes. And to this, I'm going to add some ground beef, which I have right here in the fridge. I want this to be nice and hot because what I'm going to do is I'll just put the meat in here with the garlic and the onion. This is some really nice ground beef that I picked up at Caloriso's Farm Stand and Garden Center, which happens to be one of our sponsors, and they're very generous with us in donating some of the food that we use here. So this seems to be quite ready. Maybe bring it up a little more. So I cooked the onion and garlic for about 5 minutes to get it not brown, but really nice and tender. So now I'm going to add the meat here, the ground beef. I have about 1 pound in here. I'm just going to put that in, slice right off. And I want to make sure that there's no paper stuck on the bottom, but I want to make sure that I pull it apart. I think I need a better spatula here, so I'm going to get one. I think this will work nice. Now, I love making things like meat sauce that uses really nice, ground beef, and a pound goes a long way. So if you're trying to cut back on red meat, because it does have some, health implications, but you still love the flavor, this is a great way to have it because, as I mentioned, a little goes a long way. So you still get that nice meaty flavor, but you're satisfied. So I'm going to keep doing this until the meat gets pretty much browned all over. And at this stage here, it's a good idea to season it a little bit. So I'm going to add some salt and pepper. I'm going to do the pepper first here, simply because that's what I found first, and then some salt. Thought I had it there, so I'm going to use about, about half a teaspoon. And this also makes for a quick dinner because you'll see that this cooks very quickly. And then we'll add the tomato sauce, a little bit of milk, and some basil leaves, and just let it simmer for about half an hour. Now the menu that we're doing today, as I mentioned, we're going to have crab cakes, a salad with them, and also the meat sauce over bow ties, and some beautiful chocolate covered strawberries. And this is a real quick meal that you can prepare for your family or for company. So there we go. So now that's done. I'm going to add some tomato sauce here. I like to use the chopped up tomato sauce, chopped up tomatoes. You can use the pureed kind if you want, but I prefer these. Sometimes what I do too is I put them in the blender and puree them, but they're just as good to use whole, whole, just plain chopped like that. Now this seems a little odd adding milk to the tomato sauce, but it's done very frequently. They do it all the time in Italy. They add milk to the tomato sauce, and actually I add milk to when I make meatballs too. So I'm going to mix all that, and I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of milk. I'm using 2%. You can use whole milk if you'd like. And then what would tomato sauce be without basil leaves? So I'm going to use some basil. This is a lot. I'm going to use about 5 or so leaves. Those in there. A few extra ones. One of the things that I do when I bring home my basil leaves is I put them in a cup like this, and I put water in it, so you can see this water in here. And then I cover them with the plastic bag. Actually, I have one right here. And I cover it with the plastic bag, like so, and just leave them on my counter. And they last for, I've had it way over 10 days, so even up to a week, 2 weeks or so sometimes. And yeah, so, and I'll change the water when I think of it, maybe 2 or 3 days or so, but I find that's the best way to give them a longer shelf life. Because otherwise, don't put them in the refrigerator because they turn black. You don't want that. So this here is cooking away. So I'm going to move it over to my other burner because we're going to move on to making the crab cakes. So I'm going to let that simmer for a little bit. I'm going to put a cover on it, put a lid on it, and I'm just one final stir here before I move on. And I'm going to season it again at the end, not now, when it's done. So I'm going to put the lid on it, a little bit of jar, because you want some of the steam to come out, because you do want the sauce to reduce down. So I'm going to let the steam come out by putting that on the side. Okay. So the next thing we want to work on is the crab cakes. These are wonderful. I make these every party I have, and they're always popular and they always disappear. There's never any left. So the first thing I'm going to do is heat up some oil and butter. I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of butter and about 2 tablespoons of oil in here. I'm just going to eyeball it. It's about 1, and there's about 2. And then I'm going to put in my vegetables in there. So this calls for 3/4 of a cup of onions that I have here, 1/2 a cup of red bell pepper, and 1/2 of a yellow bell pepper. So I'm going to do that now. And you want to dice these small, and again, whenever you're working with different ingredients, you want them all to be the same size if you're cooking them together. So I'm going to dice these. Okay, so I'm going to add my onions in here. About 3/4 of a cup, and 1/2 a cup of red bell pepper, and this should be about 1/2 a cup as well. Well, what do you know, just about perfect. And I'm also going to add 1.5 cups of chopped up celery. And that all cooks together. Crab cakes, as I mentioned earlier, they're really fun to make and easy, and they don't take that much time except for the chopping up of the vegetables. The rest of it is fairly easy. I'm also going to add some parsley while that cooks. I need about 1/4 cup of parsley. Give this a quick chop too. And again, when you're cooking stuff like this, they don't have to be exact measurements. Oh, I can smell this parsley. It smells really nice. It's about 1/4 cup. I'm going to put that in there. So So these cook, it takes about 20 minutes or so to get these all nice and tender. In the meantime, I'm going to add a few other things. I'm going to add some Tabasco sauce, about 1/4 teaspoon. One time I was making these and I misread the ingredient. Instead of the amount for the Tabasco sauce, which is 1/4 teaspoon, I added the teaspoon and a teaspoon that you add for the Worcestershire sauce. And I tell you, I had to do quite a few tricks to get that flavor even. So, and now a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. And these are the kind of ingredients that you do want to measure because a little bit goes a long way. So you don't want to add too much. And then I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of this Old Bay seasoning. It's 1 teaspoon and then 1/2 teaspoon. This really gives it a lot of that flavor that you taste. So this cooks for about 20 minutes. I just happen to have some already made, so I'm going to use that for our next step. So in the meantime, you can mix your crab meat. So we're going to use about 8 ounces of crab meat. This looks like it's about 1 pound, a 1 pound container, so I'm going to use about 1/2 of it. There we go, it's about 1/2. And to this, I'm going to add some, 1/3 cup of mayonnaise. I'm going to use really good mayonnaise. And then you're going to use 1/3 cup of breadcrumbs. Now, these breadcrumbs, I made my own. You can use store-bought ones if you like. I kind of like to make my own, but that's just me. You can certainly use bought ones. About 1/3 cup of breadcrumbs, homemade or otherwise. And then we're going to use 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I need 2 teaspoons. There we go. And then to this, I'm going to add 2 eggs. The eggs will just kind of bind everything together. And give it a quick, slightly beaten. Mix this all up. And then to this, I'm going to add my cooked vegetables, same as those. I just cooked them and kept them cold in the refrigerator. Or you can have them again at room temperature. So this is about it for the mixture. And then what we're going to do is just shape them into little cakes and bake them for about 20 minutes. So at this point, what you might want to do is, if they're too thin, or even like this, you need to put them in the refrigerator for about 1/2 an hour. So I'm going to do that, put them in for about 1/2 an hour, and okay, so now to shape the cake, what I'm going to do is you can do it on a plate, but I like to use wax paper because it just makes cleanup that much easier. So I'm going to put some wax paper down here, And I'm going to add some breadcrumbs, about 1.5 cups or so. Just going to eyeball it like that. And if I need more, I can always add some more. I'm going to get my mixture. And I'm going to make my little cakes. And I have a cookie sheet here that I've already oiled a little bit. So I'm just going to measure out about 1/4 cup. I'm going to be using this ice cream scoop just so that they'll be more evenly sized. Spread this out. Then you just roll them in here. There you go. Just roll them in the breadcrumbs. If you're making them for a party, you might want to make them a little bit smaller. But if you're making them for dinner, you can make them a little bigger. As for measurements, you want them to be about about 1/4 cup. If you like them a little more, a little thicker, you can certainly add more breadcrumbs to the mixture. All right, so I'm going to put these in the oven at 375 for about 20 minutes. So we're going to serve those crab cakes with a green salad. So I'm going to get that ready in the meantime. This is a nice green salad, and I'm going to add some black olives. It's actually a green salad with black olives and feta and farmer's cheese. I'm going to add some black grapes to it. And then I'm going to add some farmer's cheese. Farmer's cheese is, I think I've talked about this on the show before, but it's not very well known. I happen to think it's really very nice, and it sort of has the consistency of cottage cheese, but much drier. Actually, the flavor of cottage cheese, much drier. So I'm just going to break up a few pieces and just little chunks and just drop it on here. And that makes a nice salad, a light salad, and it'll go really nice with the, so we'll have the crab cakes as an appetizer, and then a nice little light salad. The salad dressing for this salad is, I use a raspberry vinegar with just some olive oil and then salt and pepper. So it's a real light dressing that I've already pre-made. Just going to drizzle it on top. So there we have the salad. And as I mentioned earlier, for dessert, we're going to have chocolate dipped strawberries. And so I'm going to get my chocolate ready that I've already melted. I'm just going to add just a little drop more of cream, just to thin it out a little bit. Literally just a little drop. Just a quick check on my tomato sauce here. Oh, it smells wonderful. All right, let's see. Chocolate looks like it's doing well too. So for the fun part now, here's the strawberries. Aren't they beautiful? So I already have some done. I'm just going to do a few more for you. Let's see. This looks... Oh yeah, this is good. I want to take it out so you can see it. I'm just going to take my chocolate. I'm just going to take my strawberry and just dip it in. If you're making a whole bunch at once, you might want to have like a cookie rack to let the chocolate drip, but I'm only making a few, so that's okay. They look beautiful. And chocolate is good for you too. So here we have something that tastes great and it's good for you. And so are the strawberries. So you can't go wrong with this. They taste good and they're good for you. Perfect. There we go, look at that. Isn't that fun? And it's quick too. So these are done, and that was some really nice chocolate from Winfrey's Fudge and Chocolate. They have really some of the nicest stuff in that store. So we'll put these right here. And I think the tomato sauce is done. I've cooked the pasta ahead of time, and I left it in straining, and I added just a little drop of oil to keep it from sticking. So I don't think it should have, I think it'll be nice and soft. There we go. And if it does stick a little bit, that's okay. You could just, you know, pull it apart with a fork or a spoon. There we go. And these are pretty. I love these little bow ties, and they have all different kinds of shapes now, so they're fun. It's not just, oops, it's not just spaghetti. And you can use any cut of pasta that you like. Spaghetti's fine, fettuccine's fine, any cut that you like. I just happen to prefer these little fun shapes because I think eating should be fun. So here's the tomato sauce. Isn't that nice? In less than half an hour or so, we have some really nice homemade tomato sauce. And you just scoop that on top. Oops. So there we have it, the bow ties with meat sauce on it. I'm going to check on my crab cakes because they do need to be turned over, so we'll see how they're doing. Oh, I think we can turn them over to get the other side browned. Oop, there we go. Look at that beautiful brown. It's gorgeous. There we go. So we'll put them back in the oven for another 5 or 10 minutes. So let's check on the crab cakes and see how they're doing. Oh, and they look like they're just about done. Yep, perfect. Oh, look at that. We'll take these out. Oh, oh hot. There we go. Scoop them right up. Nice and golden brown. You can see the little red pepper, pieces of red pepper sticking out here. Awesome. And these make great sandwiches too. There we go, beautiful. It's so much fun. I love doing fun stuff like this. I'm going to put just a couple of rings of peppers on the side just so that you know there's peppers in it, red bell peppers and yellow bell peppers. There we go. And you know what, we'll just put just a little bit of green because we did have some parsley in here. So we'll put the green in the middle here. There we have it. There we go. So here we have another really wonderful, quick and easy, fun meal this time too, because we had a few, something a little different on this meal. We have appetizers of crab cakes made with yellow and red bell peppers and onions and celery and some really lovely crab meat that goes in there. And so we've made those. We've cooked the vegetables ahead of time, and then we mixed it with the crab meat and mayonnaise and the mustard and a few other things, and mixed them all up, made little crab cakes, and just baked them for about 20 minutes until they're golden brown. And I think that they will go really nice with this really light green salad. And then we've also made the main entree of tomato meat sauce with that we're serving over bow ties pasta, but you can use any kind of pasta, and you can certainly accompany it with a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese, so that's very nice. And for dessert, we've had these beautiful strawberries here with chocolate, that are dipped in chocolate, and so they make for a really fun and really delicious meal. So this, I think, is a really delicious and healthy meal that came together really quick. And most of these, all of these recipes can be found in my book, Delicious Simplicity. And we also want to again thank our sponsors, Colorizos Farm Stand and Garden Center, and Winifred's Fudge and Chocolates, which do a lovely job with providing us with some of the wonderful ingredients that we use on this show. And I especially want to thank you for joining me on the show today, and I hope you do it again soon. And thank you, and bye-bye.